Hey everyone. Actually, today our speaking language is in English, so are you comfortable with that?
No.
Yeah, that's great. So let's start. As you can see, we're going to talk about building a successful startup. How many of you ever thought or already have a successful startup or just a startup, like building a startup? Just raise your hands. Oh, quite a lot. So, yeah. Considering the fact that many people actually have the ideas of building a startup, but not all of them are confident enough to start a startup, like having these many people raising hands is very good, like very impressive. So now we're going to talk about a very interesting book by Bill Ollett. Maybe you heard of him already. We're going to talk about his tips that is about like building all these successful ideas, successful startups and companies, and then we're going to apply it to the case, to our startup, which we build ourselves. So let's start. The first step, or actually step number 0 for building a successful startup is just getting started. There are many people who actually have great ideas, but they're not confident enough to start their startup, so they're just procrastinating, just waiting for longer, and whenever they want to start their startup, it's already being late. Like there are many other people around the world who might have the same ideas, and they're starting the startups themselves. And these people who had these great ideas are just failing because they procrastinated. So one key point here is that whenever you have an idea and you have the technology and most importantly the passion, you have to be fast to start your startup. Now we're getting to the step 1. So as you can see, it is asking yourself the question, who is your customer? Actually, there have been many people who had very fancy ideas, very innovative ideas, who built actually very good technologies. And whenever you look to their products, you are really impressed. But those people do not actually build in their mind the customers for whom they are going to build the product, so they were not able to sell those products. So whenever you want to build a startup and make some money, you also have to consider the fact that you have to build your product for a specific customer, which means something that is needed. So you have to have the demand for that. For doing this, you have to carry on a deep analysis. First of all, the market segmentation, which means you need to have your specific types of customers in the list, which means you are going to have a different gender type, a different age group, or you are going to have different people with different habits. When you are going to segment them, you're going to have a better understanding of how to target them, how to approach them, and how to sell your product to them. The second one is calculating TAM. So who knows about TAM? What is total addressable market? Or who has any guesses? Any volunteers?
General target?
You're quite close to the answer. Actually, this implies to a broad market type, which is all the potential customers which might use your product, not necessarily the ones that will buy, but also the ones who consider buying. The third step is building an end-user profile. As I said, you as a startup builder have to have your customers in your mind, which means building all your customers' habits, the age groups, the gender, and everything specific. However, better you target your customers, however better you make the picture about the customers, the better you will target them and the faster you will reach them. And finally, the fourth point is identifying your next 10 customers, which means that you specifically need to plan how you are going to approach those 10 customers and who specifically are going to be these 10 customers. Maybe it's a business, maybe you do B2B startup, or maybe it's a specific customer, different people. So you have to have in mind how are you going to reach these people and who specifically are these people. Second step is asking the question, what can you do for your customer? Which means that you have to bring a value to your customer. Customers may buy your product and they may feel satisfied, but you need to create a long-term value for them in order to keep them for a longer period of time. For this, you need to have high level of product specification, which means whenever you say, I'm going to sell this thing, for example, I'm going to sell a table, you are going to actually describe this product very thoroughly, which means all the aspects, all the broad values. And it may be also something intangible. It may bring something that would make customers happy in an indirect way. So you have to be specific about this, and you have to emphasize all your advantages to your customers. So defining your core, it's very similar to the first one, which means all your core advantages, and charting your competitive positions. Whatever you're building in this world, it is highly probable that someone else in the other countries thought of your idea. So you actually have to differentiate yourself. You have to bring points that make you different from all those other companies and startups. Now Rafael will continue. Okay.
So my name is Rafael, and I will continue on Bill Outlet's tips how to start a startup. So the next steps are the following: is how does your customer acquire your product? So then when you have already defined who is your customer and what is your product, what is your solution, then you may think how can you reach your customers. So the next is determining the customer decision-making units. So as you can see in the picture, here are some of the people who are considered to be some type of customers, and the actual one who we are really caring for is the champion. So he is the one who is going to use our product. There is some type of another customer who is economic buyer. He is the one who is actually paying the money for your product, but the end user, the one who is going to use our product, is the champion. There are some people who might be influencers, so they are the ones who are going to help you to choose or influence on your decision. The next one is the veto power. So this angry guy may think that the product you want to buy is something which is quite redundant, so he may hinder on your selling process. And the next is the compliance officer. So he is some type of influencer, but the opposite of the veto power. Then we shall check for the map. Then we shall map the process how to acquire a paying customer. And the next one, which is very similar to the previous one, is the mapping the sales process of acquiring customers. So again, these two steps are highly correlated, and they are making the core of the strategy how you are going to target to your customers. The next steps are how in the theme of how do you make money. So then we are coming up with a business model. So here is an example of who knows what it is. I think this is quite prevalent, and most of you shall know what is it. And no one knows it? Yeah. And there was a volunteer. I'm sure she knew that it is business model Canva. So then you shall think about the 9 important steps of something related with your business model, and they are the value proposition. It is the solution. Here we may think about our costs. So this is the key partners, the key activities, what you are going to do, the key resources, what are your resources, what are the costs that you are going to use to make the value proposition, what is your cost structure, how much money you shall pay to get your product, and the right one, we may see the customer relationship, the customer segments, channels, and revenue streams, which are mainly responsible for the revenue you are going to generate, and at the end is the revenue streams. So I think this is quite prevalent, so I will not focus on how it is working. So next, what I will like to speak about is the calculating the lifetime value and calculating the COCA, or we may call it COCA. So what is lifetime value? Who knows?
Nobody.
Okay, so let's say we have acquired a customer, and we know that this customer is going to be loyal to us for, let's say, 10 years, and he is going to pay, let's say, $1,000 each year. So to calculate the lifetime value, how much value he is going to bring us, we shall multiply the number of the years and the number of revenue he is going to give us for 1 year. So the answer for this one customer is $10,000. And the second concept I would like to speak about is the COCA, or COCA. So this is the, who knows what it is? Again, so this is the cost of acquiring customers. You shall think, if, okay, let's say we have acquired a customer and he is going to bring us, let's say, $10,000. How much should we pay on marketing? On how much should we pay to get those customers? So one key point here in comparison between the lifetime value and COCA is that your COCA should be at least 3 times lower than your lifetime value. This is a key thing in the startup. So you shall always acquire your customers 3 times cheaper than you are going to make revenue from those customers. And the last is the how do we design and build our products. Before we making a product, we shall make an MVP. Here it is, defining MVP, which is the minimum viable product. So we shall validate our product if it is something which brings a solution to our customers, if it is something which some kind of a cures our customers' pain. So for that, we shall product an MVP. We shall not put much resources on that. We shall focus on the term of lean startups by being very efficient and spending not much money. We shall construct an MVP and test the product, test the idea. If it is something that it is convenient for our customers and our customers are going to use them. After defining what is MVP, we shall also include identify what are the key assumptions in our MVP. Like our customers would like to get their product by electronic commerce, or they may just want to get an intangible product instead of a tangible product. So we shall identify and test our assumptions. And the last is show that the dogs will eat the dog's food. So this is a little bit creepy, but this is what Bill and Outlet have come up with. So they want us to prove that whatever we are building, the dog food, it is going to be something which is being used from the dogs. In this term, it is they are the customers.
So, now it's going to. Okay, so now the most interesting part. Now, as you already know all this theoretical background of how to start a startup, let's try to apply it to a real example that we've been doing since January 2017, this year. Okay, so you should first start with a problem, and I'm surprised why we don't have this slide for problem here. You should, when you have, you want to start a startup, you should try to find a problem. So, for example, raise your hands if you use public transportation regularly, or at least.
Quite many.
Yeah. Okay, so are you satisfied or no? Okay, so I think, most people, research shows that most people spend about 7 years of their lives just being in public transportation. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to spend these 7 years on standing and smelling some other people's smells or some. It's a problem because occupancy rate is 1.5, meaning that in Armenian buses for each seat there are more than one people ready to literally fight. And taxi services, on the other hand, are comfortable, but they are expensive. So, and also there is another problem that I'd like to mention is that people use transportation nowadays just for moving from point A to point B without recognizing that they could have had more meaningful experience during this time of transportation. So here's the problem that I imagine, and here's the solution that we hypothesize that it will solve this problem. Taxi Bus, it's an online platform for shared transportation connecting people through social experience. So in other words, you share the ride of your taxi with other people and you get the opportunity to have a comfortable taxi ride and pay low price. At the same time, you will get the opportunity to meet people who have similar interests and just socialize. So these are the advantages that I've already mentioned. Now let's try to apply the concept. How we came up with this total addressable market figure is $2.5 million. You just take some characteristics, for example, age, from 14 to 40 years old, the specific location where the service will be provided, and then you also start to segment from some parts. You say that you're targeting students and young professionals who had some bad experience previously in microbuses, and also they have smartphones so that they can use this application. By doing this, you try to come up with a figure that will say that, oh, this is the number of people that I will be targeting, and then you present this figure not by the number of people, for example, 1 million people, but by the dollar amount. For example, if every day they use the service, they'll pay certain amount of money. You just multiply this and you come up with this dollar amount, which says that annually the market size is $2.5 million. This is a little bit. This is the same thing, but a little bit different representation. This is shows that how many students there are in the world. In the region. For example, in Tbilisi and Yerevan combined, there are about 150,000 students. Just to show that your idea is scalable. So it doesn't only apply here in Yerevan in Armenia, but later you can scale it to other parts in the world. This is specifically for Armenia, just to be, Stella was talking about how specific you should be for when you're starting a startup. So you should specifically know how many students there are in each university, and maybe how many students will probably use your service again in each university. And okay, then you should define the business model about which Rafael was talking. The most important part here that I'd like to mention is the pricing strategy. So how do you make money from your product? Because you may have a great idea, but you may not. It's probable that you won't make money out of it. So you should try to find a pricing framework which will help you to get revenue. In this case, in case of taxi bus, it's fixed price regardless of the distance. So you pay 300 drams. No matter whether you live in Shengavit or you live in Kentron.
Hey, sorry, can you concentrate in market research rather than your specific product?
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to be like advertisement. Otherwise.
Okay. Okay. So it's important to know to set a price, to have a pricing strategy which will be both beneficial for you and also for the customer. And then there's competition. So, for example, you have to try to separate competitors into different groups and to analyze their advantages and disadvantages separately. So, in this case, for example, there are taxis that that are used by application. There are conventional taxis and also public transport. So you analyze their strengths and weaknesses separately. After that, you have to, again, this is repetition. You have to, Stella talked about this, try to find the core value that you bring to the, by which you are different from the competitors. Okay, then marketing. There are three main steps in this marketing part: getting customers, keeping customers, and then also growing. For getting customers, you should try to define a marketing strategy, for example, through social media or PR and similar activities. And you should, by this strategy, you should try to find how much you are going to spend on each customer for acquiring this customer. If this cost is higher than the price that I mentioned here, where is it? If this cost is higher than the price, then you better try to change something or change the business model or give up on the idea if everything is worse. Then second step is keeping customers. This is about having loyalty programs, or for example, if you use our service or our application 10 times, then on the 11th time you'll get a discount. This is an example of keeping customers. Keeping them engaged, or having just a community in Facebook which will just generally constantly remind them about your product. And then also growing customers. And these are different programs called referral. So for example, if you offer such promotions, so if a customer uses your service 10 times, then or for example, if customer invites someone new to use your service, he will get an opportunity to use your service for free once, for example. Then you have to build an MVP of your product. This is the most crucial part. You have to build an MVP of your product and test your ideas. So for example, when you have this MVP, which is minimum viable product, the minimum product that you might have, and you have to give this product to the customers, and they have to use it. And when they use it, you'll see whether they like it or not. You ask for feedback. They tell you what they like, what they don't, and based on that feedback, you adjust, you modify your product. Then also, this slide shouldn't have been here. This is the team. You should have a balanced team. So, for example, when you have a team of 5 people who are all from business side, you're not going. It's not going to work. You'd better have team that has both 2 people, for example, from business side who have had previous experience in similar startups or similar fields, and also in this case 2 programmers who will do their part of the job, so the tech side. Yeah, and this we can ignore. And also you should try to, we haven't talked about this previously, but you should try to set milestones and try short-term goals and try to achieve them. So for example, startup I think it's mostly about execution. So you should set a goal that I should have this amount of customers, for example, by September, and try to achieve this goal. If you don't achieve it, then something is wrong with the previous steps that we've already gone through. You should go back and try to see where's the problem and improve it. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions, yes.
Yeah. On which you invested money for starting this product, and are you beneficial already?
About investment, we have bootstrapped so far, so from our own money. And about being beneficial, we have had 40 paying. We've been testing MVP. We have already tested it, and we have had about 40 paying customers in 1 month, without having the final MVP. So we're still in the process of getting feedback, adjusting the product. Unfortunately, we were not beneficial up until now. We have had cases when we've broken down, so 0 revenue. But as we scale up, we see that there is a huge possibility of getting beneficial.
So the issue was that we couldn't gather like 6 people in the car to have those profit, because if the people in one car is going to be 4, then we are going to have losses. We had some examples when there were 5 people and we have break even, so we didn't have losses or profit. But there were only 2 examples when we have gathered 6 people, and during those rides we had profit. So whenever we'll scale up and we'll have much more customers, the probability that we'll have 6 people in one car then will be profitable.
Yes, you're right. But the thing is that for me, for instance, I hear about this for some. Although you are working from January, yes, you said, yeah. But how you advertise it, how people should know about it.
Very good question. Actually, we do not intensively advertise it now, because we want to have our specific like final product then to advertise, because it may change. Startup is like a type of company that always changes its model, and it's like perceived to a scalable one. But we do the advertising not that intensively. We do social media advertising. We actually use our networks to advertise. So it's not really like reachable for a wide public as for now, but we started like the advertising steps. So I think that's the answer to the question.
The driver is a taxi driver, or is like could be anyone?
That's actually a very good question. We had to specify. Also, it somehow answers to your question about the investment. We actually do not need to do a huge capital investment, because we don't buy the cars. We have like specific taxi drivers with whom we like contact, who want to like actually take the orders and serve all those customers. So they actually receive the map, all the locations of the customers, and they specifically take the order, and they then get a feedback how the ride was and how was that successful or not.
And I'm sorry, you were asking if they should be.
Where you don't go to other drivers, people who go to work or anybody.
So in our previous example, when we have done the testing, we had 8 drivers who we have worked with. 5 of them have been taxi drivers, and 3 of them have been workers, young professionals who were getting from their home to their workplace. So during the way, they gather some people and have got some revenue instead for their actions.
Yes. How do you test drivers? I mean, do you have any problem that you check them who can drive and who not?
Actually, first of all, we are getting the drivers, and then we are inviting them to our office. We are having a small interview, and after an interview, we are, during this interview, we are giving them our terms, and when our terms are ready, so we know that we want to work with each other, we are testing if he's a good one or no. Then, based on the feedback, for example, there was a driver who has said that he's not going to smoke, but once he smoked, and considering the feedback from the customers, we have started not to work with him anymore.
Are there any additional revenue streams or business models you're planning on the platform?
Yes, there are 2 auxiliary business revenue streams, and they are the advertisements in the cars, audio and picture advertisements. So we may put some advertisements in the cars, and whenever people are in the cars, they will see the advertisements. And the other chance is that we may put some advertisements small on the application. This may be the second auxiliary revenue stream.
What about, for example, building out the SaaS platform that people can, for example, there's a lot of ride-sharing services around Europe where people get rides to different countries and stuff like that, but there's no online platform to book these rides, right?
I'm sorry, our time is up.
We can talk here right now.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for your attention.
thank you.